one of the things we pride ourselves on in the Erickson community is we don't have security officers. We have security and emergency service officers throughout our enterprise, all our campuses. They are trained emergency medical responders, and what that means is they have gone through training and are certified for medical emergencies first responder. Our average response time on our campuses is about 2.5 minutes. We have a goal of 4. And we see here a pull cord independent. So each apartment will have a pull cord. If you need emergency services, you press the pull cord. There'll be appendants available at extra charge you can carry around with you as well. Our first responders come, can assess and help you, and then if need be, we contact 911. It really is one of the great services. And we have integrated health and wellness. Dr. Nara talked to you about our medical center. Every morning, our emergency services teams meet with the medical center, and they really work hand in hand. Really, this whole concept we've heard about integrated health and medical, that's what we really try to do with our communities. The pen that I talked about, one of the things that we really try to do, we talked about the emergency services we do, the security piece, but it's outreach. It's really, really important in terms of making sure that our security officers are out in the community, and you'll see them all the time, but also putting on seminars, trainings, and workshops. And we see senior fraud being, a big opportunity in terms of prevention programs. So a lot of the communities work with local jurisdictions, state attorney's office, attorney general, or even internally to put on workshops and seminars for you, or even some topics of interest. We'll talk in a second about emergency preparedness, especially down in Florida. We do a seminar yearly in terms of emergency preparedness. So really, what can we do from the prevention side, and making sure everyone knows what to do in the event of emergency. We'll talk about our emergency preparedness plan, especially being here in Florida. So a couple of weeks ago, we're monitoring a week back in Baltimore. We have an emergency continuity team. We were monitoring Hurricane Dorian, which was coming to Florida, and we have a community, as Carrie said, in West Palm Beach. So our team, we have a corporate team that represents our procurement, our facilities, really in terms of preparing to make sure that we can assist the communities should there be a situation. We also have one of our staff members flew down to Florida and was on the ground. And we started about a week early preparing with our community in terms of emergency preparedness. 2 years ago, we had Harvey and Irma in the same week. I was telling someone in the last meeting because it was that week 24/7. We were working with our community in Houston for Harvey, and then Irma was coming to Florida. I'm happy to say that all our communities not only were safe and sound, but we turned out to be shelter locations for other folks, employees who were bringing their family, and then even some folks who were looking to move in. I say that because we really take it very, very seriously and important. As I mentioned, I recently came into my new role as Vice President of General Services. My role of Director in Safety Security is being filled by one of our General Services Director who has a background in law enforcement, but also was a Director of the Maryland Emergency Management. So that is a key priority. Every year we drill with our communities. We have an emergency preparedness plan. We're building this building as Category 5 hurricane and hurricane windows. So what we look at is in terms of we're sheltering in place. Do we have enough food, water, staff, and really preparing for that? And I can say from some of our history, I was watching this morning on the news after our cycle class. I was recovering. And NBC or Channel 4, the commercial came on. I guess they do the weather coverage. And they had this little thing where it's not their first rodeo. This is not our first rodeo. And I can tell you, we take it very seriously and have a full contingent. A couple years ago, when Irma was coming to Florida and the gas station was running out of gas, we actually had a tanker that we were sending down. Luckily, the storm turned and we were able to send it back. But we want to make sure we have enough fuel for our generators. So, we can, in terms of, I know already there were some questions and we prepared some topics there. So I want to assure you in terms of, for our commitment, not only providing top resident services, but in terms of making sure that your safety and security, both in emergency services and medical services, is a top priority. So thank you very much. Next, I'm going to turn over to Jeff Watson, who's going to talk about some of the other amenities and activities here available for you.
Thank you, Rick. If you've never met Rick before, you probably got a good sense of him. He stands solid, he is solid. He's sort of granite, and he's got a lot of integrity. And so the people that work for him, that work on the whole property, really create a lot of reassurance for all of us. I've had loved ones living in our communities, and I take great confidence, both in our medical care, but also the men and women who provide the general services and provide all the buildings and grounds and the first responders to the emergencies that might happen from time to time. Well, I have a picture here that lets you get a sense of my family. Those 10 people right there, I have to tell you, they're the 10 people I love most in the world, my kids and grandkids. And we love to body surf. Every year we spend a good amount of the summer body surfing in South Carolina. And I start with sunrise over the Atlantic and taking pictures, and we don't end until the sun goes down and we're laughing about stories and all that happened this day. So we have a great amount of fun, and it builds relationships for people who are very busy and traveling and not necessarily sitting side by side throughout the year. And I'm very delighted to have a family like this. I come from a family that was really dysfunctional. And so for my boys to have married so beautifully, for the wife that I married to be so steady, she's a female version of Rick Maltz. She is. She's grand. Well, we all need people who are steady, 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 no matter what the winds of change are. Some of us are more roller coasters. That's me, up and down. But I love to have some ballast in my ship and some anchors that I can throw out when things are frightening. So one of the things we love to do is also look at family history, family genealogy. And though both my parents came from broken homes, I've been able to piece back together where they come from. And through my maternal grandmother, I'm related to Queen Elizabeth of England. So that's my most famous relative so far.
She must be very proud.
Oh, she's very proud. So people sometimes say to me, well, Jeff, what do you actually do? And I usually pause and then I say, honestly? They go, yeah, as little as possible. But the reality is, I don't do the big hard stuff. I don't do medicine, meals, maintenance, money, marketing, none of the big hard M's. I do the other stuff. More the quality of life. I'm the quality of life guy. And honestly, my philosophy isn't to try to push myself to live longer, but to live better, to live well, to live happily, to engage in a lifestyle that helps me be better tomorrow than I am today. And we try to live by the big four that come out of UCLA. Eating wisely, exercising daily, learning consistently, and relaxing meaningfully. Turning off that worry button. So that is really my philosophy. And it's a part of what gives us a sense of joy every day. One thing I'd like to do today is give you a sense of how our communities work. What do you see in those pictures? Pop out some words or phrases. What do you see?
Smiles.
Smiles.
Affection.
Affection.
Engagement.
Activity. Engagement.
Fun.
Happy people. Cards. Drinking. Variety. Those are some pictures that Stacy grabbed, but honestly, you're going to create better pictures for us. And part of what I'd like to do is talk about pie. I love a nice piece of pie. Do any of you like a nice slice of pie? What are some of the flavors that you prefer? Let me hear some of your favorite flavors. Lemon meringue,
Apple.
blueberry, apple, strawberry rhubarb. Did I hear a New England accent? Did I hear a New England accent? No. New York accent. Rhubarb. Pecan. Pumpkin.
Key lime.
Pumpkin. Key lime. I was waiting for key lime. There you go. My Louisiana relatives say, we don't call it pecan, Jeff. That's what goes under the bed at night. Pecan. Pecan, they say. Well, here's the pie I'd like to talk about. The pie that you're going to create. Think about it. When a staff member comes to Siena Lakes, they're one person. But for every one staff person, there's going to be 3 or 4 residents. So when we bake a piece of pie down here, there are going to be more master bakers among the residents than among the staff. We'll work together. But we count upon you. And what are the ingredients in the bakery at Siena Lakes? It's your background, your passions, your experience, your wisdom. What you bring are the key ingredients for building this mystical, magical thing we call culture. If there's any one thing that I seek to do, and never am quite sure how to do it, is to build culture. Think of it as a honeycomb of relationships between residents and staff, and volunteers and family and vendors. Multi-directional relationships. That's culture. And I would like to say this. Erickson builds buildings, but residents build culture. Erickson builds buildings, but residents build culture. We could answer the question, can I survive here? And a lot of what we're talking about is survival skills. But why survive here? Why get up every day? Why get dressed? Why go out the door? Why live here? What's the aspirational side of being in an Erickson living community? That has a lot to do with culture. And this pie talks a little bit about the way the pie often shapes up. There are typically 6 slices in the Erickson culture pie, or the activity pie. In a typical year across the enterprise, we have about 170,000 public-facing calendar opportunities. I say public-facing because if you scheduled a room and had a catered dinner for you and your 12 best friends to celebrate an anniversary, that's not public-facing. You're not inviting the world. But if you had a concert or a Bible study or a poker game and you put it on the calendar so anybody could come, that's public-facing. 170,000 chances per year across 19 communities. So now when the people reserve a room for your poker game or for your Torah study, they just do a little check mark as to basically what type of activity it is. And it shows up as 3 or 6 big buckets. About 3% of those activities are giving related. What's that? That would be, let's say Hurricane Dorian comes through and you breathe a sigh of relief because you weren't hurt. But then you begin to say, maybe we should do something for the people in the Bahamas. Maybe we should get together and discuss whether we should send some medical supplies, a pallet of non-perishable food. And so you schedule a room and you create a committee meeting and you have a brainstorm. That's a giving-related event, volunteering or philanthropy. 8% of our activities are entertainment-related. Someone comes and sings, they do comedy, they dance. Entertainment-related. 10% are spiritually related. Maybe a meditation group, maybe a Bible study, maybe a rosary group. 12% learning related.